Cyberbullying and Anonymity by Connor Banks. My research question was, as anonymity increases in the technological world, will cyberbullying become an even greater problem due to ignorance and hate thriving in the internet community? And this led me to my problem, which was cyberbullying has not only increased recently, but the victims have also experienced worse cyberbullying on platforms that are untraceable. Cyberbullying on the rise. So, as you can see with this graph, 18.8% of all people reported cyberbullying in 2007, whereas 33.8% reported it in 2016. And this is a very large increase. The effects of anonymity. So after surveying the effects of the driver's road rage when their car has their name on it or is untagged, Patricia Wallace, who earned a PhD in psychology, concluded that anonymity can draw out some very troubling behavior. So, why does anonymity make cyberbullying worse? First off, the bully is invisible. This means that confrontation is not possible, and the problem is very difficult to solve. Also, disinhibition, which is defined by Edward Kessler as enabling people to say things they wouldn't normally say face-to-face, would flourish. Brandy Vela, who took her own life, had faced many years of anonymous bullying online. Her father attributes the death to the anonymity that took place. This is just one example of how anonymity makes cyberbullying worse. Now, how do the stimulus materials fit in? Well, as said by Martin Luther King in the letter from Birmingham jail, the appalling silence of the good people, and this shows the pros of anonymity, because if good people are silenced online, then this could lead to more hate and ignorance thriving. Also, the social media has become an important part of our lives in an incredibly short amount of time, and this is said by Edward Kessler's portion of the stimulus materials, and this shows how effective social media is in our lives. So, solution one, but banning all anonymous platforms. Now, let's talk about the pros of the solution. Well, confrontation is made possible and the bullies will be exposed due to the fact that there is no anonymity on the internet. Also, it will prevent any crimes such as the 9 million identities stolen last year, as said by FBI statistics. And also, disinhibition, which I stated earlier, will be lost. Now, the cons of this solution is that it would be difficult to enforce, and it would cost millions from the government. Also, fake usernames can still hide the bullies' identities. And many people would say it would be an infringement of their First Amendment rights. Now, for the implication of this solution, the public will be against the infringement of their rights, and companies will be against their sites being taken down. For the limitations, just like the gun violence epidemic, the government will have difficulty passing laws through an amendment. And also, it is very difficult to maintain, as 380 new sites are being created every minute, and many of those are anonymous. My second solution is holding the anonymity platforms accountable. The pros of this solution are that it is easier to enforce because sites will not be completely taken down, and this would allow for sites to be more lenient towards the solution. Also, the most common and used sites will be targeted, meaning that most of the public that uses these sites will not be able to post anonymous hurtful things. And platform holders will not want the government watching them, and so they will self-monitor the content on their sites. The cons of this solution are that some anonymity will be left on the internet due to smaller anonymous platforms, and any people who post on these platforms would say it is inhibiting their First Amendment rights. The implications of this solution are that some platforms will avoid restrictions due to the fact that the government can't cover the entire internet, and internet users will find loopholes and be able to get around the bans and restrictions of the anonymity. The limitations. Lots and time of money would be needed for the government to go through the anonymous platforms. And since new content is being created every day on these platforms, the government would have to go through every single day, and this would cost lots and lots of time and money. And also, as I said before, many people would consider it an infringement on their First Amendment rights. In conclusion, I believe that solution 2 is much better for these 3 reasons. For one, it is easier to implement, and there will be less backlash. And also, there will be less resources needed from the government.
Okay, thank you, Connor. How valid and reliable were the sources that you used, and how do you know? And did you have sources that didn't work for you?
Well, I got most of my sources from EBSCO and Google Scholar, and the other parts of my resources were valid, like news articles from big new media outlets such as CBS News, where I got Randy Vela's story from. And I did have a few articles from smaller journals, but I couldn't find the credentials of the writer, and so I decided not to use these sources.
And then, if you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to the issue of cyberbullying?
I would conduct more research on how cyberbullying is affected by anonymity, because I had lots of research on how human behavior is affected by anonymity, but I believe that my presentation could have been made better with more correlating cyberbullying and anonymity together.
Okay, thank you.